Great. Yeah, well, thanks everyone for tuning in. Um, we've had a productive, I think, a really productive week for LeagueDAO. I guess the big updates want to really around the different forum posts that we shared earlier in the week and going into last week regarding the structure of version 2 of our tokenized fantasy sports protocol, and what we've been calling sort of the mega league structure. um, Call it whatever you will, but we've, as just like a team working with our devs, we've pretty much solidified the core architecture for that, and the devs have started working on the contracts and a lot of the kind of key components um, to this game. So like the updates to the game. So that's really exciting, and we're really happy with where we ended up. I mean, this is months of us going back and forth and working on how do we basically take the the decentralized fantasy game that was built for like Nomo and combine that with um, effectively with like the Genesis League, which was our sort of private bootstrap league where uh, the Cedars all played in a private fantasy league where we basically use Yahoo Fantasy Sports, right? And there were 6 divisions of 12 teams, but everyone was sort of competing for an overarching kind of league wide prize. Um, and in a lot of ways, what we're building is really we're building out our own fantasy sports platform, like our own Yahoo Fantasy Sports. So the gameplay, the UI, is what you're used to with fantasy, in terms of setting your rosters and lineups and head-to-head competitions and all that sort of stuff. But integrating Web3 and decentralization and like tokenomics into it to make it a more interesting and compelling experience for everyone. So it's really ambitious what we're doing. And like I said, it's been a lot of time of us taking a lot and reviewing a lot of the feedback from the community in terms of how everyone felt and the engagement that we saw around the first few leagues that we launched. And now it's full steam ahead. We've actually brought on an additional front end developer and another full stack developer uh, and another designer. So we've beefed up our dev team, and we're feeling confident that we're going to be able to launch all the core components in time for really August, if you think, because everything will be tested and ready by August, and then September is when football season kicks off. So really exciting stuff for our end on our end. And then, but I think the big things from the community standpoint right now is that what we're also proposing are some different applications of the league governance token into the game. So really building out and creating more utility for the league, which I'll kind of we've started informally referring to as the league ecosystem token as opposed to just a governance token, because now governance is really just one piece of what the token does. Um, and I think that's something that we've known that we've needed to do, but we wanted to make sure that we were doing it the right way and finding, opportunities where the token can really serve as like a base value within the fantasy leagues themselves, as opposed to just sort of you know like the mechanism for play to earn where you earn league tokens or have to spend it, that sort of stuff. Like we wanted to create something that was a bit more sophisticated and also create a little bit more of a flywheel, because that's ultimately the most sustainable approach. So the forum posts that we have in there are some of them are regarding that specifically, and our goal is to take those into snapshot votes. So we actually have a record of the community weighing in and either approving or rejecting these proposals. So that's, if you haven't already, definitely make your way to the forum.leaguedao.com and take a look at those threads. And also thanks for everyone that put in that commented on it and have offered thoughts and suggestions to the forum post as well. We've got some. I think we've gotten some really good discourse going on in there, so that's great to see. Um, but I think all of these things sort of tie together, and I think we've made a lot of progress in the past couple of weeks that are going to fundamentally improve just everything for LeagueDAO. You know, the product's going to be great, and it's going to really create something that has a viable long-term growth strategy and like economics, but still staying true to Web3 and our like core pillars. But then also right incorporating the lead token in a more interesting and compelling way, which is what we all know is what's needed for people to actually see value in it and to utilize it. So a lot of exciting stuff from us across the board with LeagueDAO. Anything anyone else wanted to add? All right.
I would just say, yeah, just a lot of exciting stuff for sure. A lot to look forward to.
Yeah, and I guess there's a couple different elements right to what we're doing. I mean, one is the development side and the product side, and I think everyone's aware of what we're doing there. And I think the product and development is something that we've done a good job of, and I think if you look at the products that we've deployed to late, like we've built a little bit of a track record of deploying good code and pushing code and aggressively. Um, the other side is the like community and growth and partnerships, or quote unquote the marketing side. Of course, I know a lot of people ask when marketing, but I think marketing is really there's just to say marketing as a umbrella doesn't really get to a good question. It's like because there's so many different facets of like a true marketing campaign, right? And which channels of marketing are you looking at? And for us, when we look at what success means for LeagueDAO in 2022, um, we're looking at really focusing on product market fit, right? And being able to show that we took this like manual or these two different separate like leagues, Nomo and the Genesis League, and we were able to combine them, and by doing so, allowed us to significantly increase the number of people that were participating, and actually joining and like being a part of this. So that doesn't necessarily mean that like that doesn't that term of success doesn't mean like hundreds of thousands of people playing in the fall. That'd be great, but that's not necessarily what we need to see to feel confident that we've been successful in our efforts. So because of that, I would say when we're talking about marketing, and I just wanted to bring this up because I know it's a question that comes up a lot, it's really focusing, and we've been really focusing on, um, strategic partnerships, and also engaging and re-engaging our pretty broad network of contributors and advisors and seeders. You can look at the contributor page on the LeagueDAO website and go through that and see the list of names of people who are either a part of the Genesis League or they were, or are advisors or other contributors. And there's a really robust list of people that carry a lot of weight in the crypto community who have all supported LeagueDAO, and are even just engaging and getting that community of people to spread the word, will be successful, right? But also, like I said, the larger kind of strategic aspects of community partnerships, but doing it in the right way, so that we're not just pumping up the number of people in the Discord without actually like bringing in engaged like people who are going to actually utilize the protocol, use the like and play in the league. I think there's a lot of projects, and you see right now like they have these massive numbers in Twitter and Discord, but they're struggling to get people to actually like mint NFTs or participate or use the products, and I think that's a sign that a lot of the like kind of growth strategies that communities are employing aren't necessarily that effective. And it also comes down to like you as a product have to as a team, we really have to know what does a success look like, and like what are our core metrics, like our KPIs, and staying true to that, as opposed to just trying to like go after the biggest numbers possible. um, so that's just something I also wanted to add aside from the development updates. And that also touches on some stuff that we've talked about before. We're putting more work and energy into our like messaging and storytelling, and kind of like how we're communicating what LeagueDAO is, who LeagueDAO is, why you should care about us. We've been playing with stuff in there's the LeagueDAO lore channel that we've created in the Discord, and um, you know even sort of playing around the idea of like fictional characters. There's sort of like historical figures in the in LeagueDAO, and like the core, like the original rules of LeagueDAO, things like that. Stuff that is also just adds like a fun, engaging element that one of our advisors that I had spoken with, who does helps a lot of projects and has helped a lot of big Web3 projects around this like storytelling. He referenced like basically creating your like messiah, right? Like it doesn't have to be an actual person. It's active and engaged and way and having a voice in what we're building. So I think our community,
Agreed.
yeah,
Agreed.
a ramble. So apologies.
Do we want to just jump on? Do we have? I mean, you kind of just went over the general update, but I'm not sure if you wanted to touch on other stuff before questions.
I mean, that was sort of it on the top end. I mean, I can give more detailed like dev notes in terms of what was worked on over this past week. I mean, for I mean, I make the assumption that everyone listening and everyone on the call sort of understands the structure that we work with, but we use we approach dev from like an agile development standpoint, and we work in 2 week sprints. Um, so if you think of and really when we have like each milestone we can call like either like building non-fungible brackets, that was a milestone. Launching the original Nomo League, that was a milestone. What we're working on right now is a new milestone. We can call it, I think internally documentation we've been calling it's kind of referred to as like milestone 3, which is this version 2 of the fantasy football league. And I know that's way too complicated because it just used 2 different numbers and whatnot, but we're in the this week was the beginning of sprint number 3, um, for this milestone. And and uh, and just I'm just sharing that like we can get into more details in terms of exactly what uh, teams working on, like the devs are working on in this sprint, if people want that information. We of course, I think one of the things we also are going to be doing is jump starting again our newsletter and make that like a bi-weekly newsletter. But also we're gonna, this kind of goes to the storytelling, we're going to expand it a little bit and just offer more information just around like sports, NFTs, and GameFi. Because I think it's also beneficial for LeagueDAO, because we are building the tools that like other communities can use to like have run like fantasy games and tournaments, for on like using our protocols. um, Working to establish LeagueDAO as sort of a like a leader in terms of, or thought leader in this like this emerging space of GameFi and sports and NFTs and esports and all that sort of stuff. um, So broadening our content a little bit, so we're not just talking about LeagueDAO all the time. That's another just sort of aspect. As anyone listening can tell, there's more things that I could talk about than I could probably talk about in an hour. Where we keep ourselves busy.
Very busy.
But we wouldn't have it any other way because we feel like we were fortunate that we were able to deploy our like core protocols very quickly from when we launched LeagueDAO and collect so much data early on that now we're have an opportunity to use all that data to work with the community to then like find this like quote unquote product market fit faster than I think a lot of other protocols might. So we're in a really fortunate position because of the speed at which we've deployed tech and like actually gotten people to use our products and to like engage with us beyond just sort of the speculation of what we might build a couple of years from now. So because of that, it allows us to really dive into a lot of different aspects that otherwise we probably wouldn't have because we didn't have like real concrete information to inform it and to understand how it fits into things. Yeah, so why don't we move into the AMA part? Because that's kind of, I mean, that was 20 minutes of me giving updates. That's just not fair to any human being to have to listen to.
Cool. Let's see.
That said, I did once give it was a university in Germany. I was asked to give a lecture about blockchain and royalties and like the film industry, which is a lot of my background. Was building like Web3 software around film, like entertainment royalties and merchandise. I mean, and like all the economics of filmmaking. And the university, because I guess I don't know why, but they required me to they required the lecture to be like 3 hours long, and I had to just talk the whole time. And I don't know why they did that, but I did it, and I still feel sorry for the kids that listened to me talk for 3 hours straight.
That's a lot of time. Dang. Okay, cool. We'll roll into the questions or just comments. Victus was touching on Tour de France NFB bracket tournament possibility. I just commented on that forum last night because I was just going through those and was just thinking that it might be a better structure for the NFB protocol compared to the NOMA League structure if we were to want to move forward with something like that for that event. Yeah, I don't know how it would be structured exactly, but I made a comment with one of I think it was actually the official Tour de France. They ran their own fantasy game back in 2018 or so and had a certain structure, but it was um, I'm not sure exactly how they ran it, what system they used, but yeah, it's something that we could think about maybe for running this summer for while we prepare for the football season and build that up.
Yeah, I mean it's a great idea. I think we're all in support of utilizing. I mean, how I personally have seen like the architecture of it is like, or how the pieces come together is NFB serves as our onboarding funnel in a way, like our user acquisition funnel, because the longer season long fantasy leagues, like there's a higher price point to entry. It requires more time and energy, to actually like be a part of it. So NFB in these sort of tournament style pick'em type games, those create an opportunity for us to either offer them as a free to enter option. So right where we can do things like the winners when we can get some different projects to sponsor and donate some NFTs and tokens, and so the winner wins that as opposed to just winning a piece of a prize pool. So that way we don't have to people don't have to pay an entry fee to participate. That's something that we've talked about, but also a way for us to like to build and gauge the demand for different sports, right? Beyond, kind of the top three. So with these like either playoff type brackets or different pick'em games, and we've been looking at that for Formula One. I mean, the World Cup is on our roadmap. That one's easier for us because the World Cup doesn't start until after the football season begins, so we know that we can build that out without having to impact our development on our resources on the football product or protocol. So that it's definitely something that we're doing, and I think it's great for us to continue to use the forum that way, but to collect data in terms of which events people are most interested in. I think the one challenge we have today and over the next several months is that we we just only have so many dev resources, and what we're building for the football season is really ambitious. So to divert those devs away from building out the football protocol and the draft components and all in the marketplace, divert them from that to build out another like a Tour de France bracket, but it just takes time and man hours, and we at this stage I think we know that our priority is building out the best product possible for football season. So we just need to be judicious about that and make sure that we don't run into too much feature creep over the next several months. But long term, absolutely. And if there is someone in the community that wanted to step up and say, "Hey, I would like to do this and to build this out for the protocol," then that isn't already working on all the other stuff, then we can discuss a proposal and and a grant from the DAO, from the DAO treasury directly. That's something we could do, but I think right now we just have to be careful with the current devs that are focusing on the football league.
Yeah, no, that definitely makes sense. But yeah, that thinking about just different events and upgrades that we can play around with for the NFP protocol, I think is really exciting.
Yeah, and the challenge is really there's some element of front end that has to be changed because the brackets aren't exactly the same. But you have to the real challenge and where the work comes in is we have to pull the data from whatever API provides us the scoring, and then map the brackets or the game to that API, and so it just there's a lot of work that has to happen on the back end in order for us to deploy a new bracket for a sport or tournament.
Yeah, definitely. Victus was asking, to hear thoughts regarding treasury investment on Polygon. I'm not sure if he's referring to the reward pool strategy forum post or if that was something else. But if it was regarding the reward pool, yeah, I think that's just still in the works for figuring out where we would expand or move the funds to try and expand the actual yield on that over the off season. But yeah, I think it's a really good idea to try and find something with a little higher yield, but also that we can get insurance for in the case that we can choose a certain protocol that offers that. And there's a few different options that have, I think actually all of the ones on the forum post do qualify for covers through InsureAce. And some of them automatically cover it when you enter the pool, but it just depends which protocol we'd want to actually use for the yield.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's we have to model out what the actual numbers look like, because one is you're going to require dev hours and time to change that, right? To change where like the current strategy for the reward pool, and so factor that cost plus like cost of if we had to insure it, right, in order to have a riskier yield, like against the actual increased percentage of the yield, so that way we know like is this actually like in the long run is it actually worth it for everyone, right? Is it materially increasing what like the yield that we're getting based on the costs that come with it. I think that's just the one piece that there's a we all are degens and are always chasing higher yields, but we have to. There is a bit of a risk reward that we have to balance when we're looking at this because it is and will continue to grow, and so it is a large sum, and we need to make sure that we're being smart and safe with it at the same time as trying to maximize it.
Yeah, no doubt. I'll try and crunch some numbers on some of those and see what it would cost for some of the protocols that don't include insurance. I do know there's a few protocols that cover you for smart contract vulnerabilities and certain depegging. And I'm gonna look into that a bit more and see what I can find to see what would be feasible if we're
Yeah,
gonna
well,
move
and it's
it.
also I think another point is just for everyone to also recognize the fact that like how the like the reward and yield strategy contracts currently work. So it's one thing for us to move the reward pool into a certain like DeFi protocol to generate to like get a higher yield during the off season, where we're not drawing from it, but like we do have to be able to withdraw the yield on a weekly basis and then redistribute that, right? That during the season. So there's just that other element of like making sure that also what we're doing is like compatible with that functionality. But like I said, it's one thing during the off season that's less of a concern because we could put it in some one place for a period of time and then move it back to where it currently is, so that when the new season starts, it doesn't impact the functionality and how the contracts are set up. Um, but it's just another factor to take into account.
Gotcha. Yeah, no, definitely worth noting. Let's see there.
I mean, it looks
Hey,
like
Victor's been.
the other question is just regarding like the next step for these forum posts. Um, and so, I mean, some of them are more just like general kind of ideas, but I think the ones that we're presenting as like clear proposals. Um, and it depends on sort of the where we get with the conversation, but for example, the ones regarding the like utility of the league token. Um, that's where we would move forward with a snapshot vote to ensure that we have that record of the community approving those uses and not just like the forum. So uh, some of the stuff we don't necessarily need like a snapshot vote for, but for us to like be able to move forward on, like I think the draft component, but specifically when we're getting to like the league token and changing the utility of that and where you can use it, I think that's where we want to have an actual vote on record.
Cool. Next, I think Voro commented on this, but Brandon was just asking, would it be easy to use the infrastructure made for the Mega League to create private traditional fantasy leagues with friends? And yeah, I think that's the mission for that. Yeah, if you want to touch on that.
Yeah, that's our goal, right? Like our goal is to be building the protocol so that um, it it's not just we're not just relying on like doing it so only like LeagueDAO can host a league on the protocol. We want people to be able to create their own leagues, whether that's a community or just a group of friends. That's, I think, one of the other kind of key pieces from the data that we've gleaned is that that's a key part of the just the fantasy sports experience. Is so many people play in leagues with that they've been a part of for 10, 12, 15, 20 years, and being able to like continue and not necessarily try and curb that habit, but like allow these leagues to move to our protocol where they're like to like a Web3 fantasy component. That's really our the goal there, right? And because then it becomes like the mega league that we're talking about is really the like LeagueDAO sponsored mega league, but there could be 5 other mega leagues, and there could be a bunch of other leagues that are only one division as opposed to leagues that have multiple divisions. That's how our vision for the protocol. And that also, of course, gives us that creates a more sustainable growth model too, because then we're not necessarily just like trying to acquire every individual to come in and like be joined. Like we don't have to get each individual person that participates. Like it's not on LeagueDAO to acquire that. It's more what we're focusing on is getting the people that like the commissioners, people that run the leagues, that manage the leagues, or other communities and other projects, get them to create their own league on via LeagueDAO. And that is that gets us to a point of having tens of thousands of people participating and using the products much faster than if it was all just like the LeagueDAO sponsored league, and then we have to go and actually acquire each onboard every single person that's participating ourselves.
I wouldn't be surprised to see like fantasy sports guilds pop up eventually for specifically Web3 native sports games and whatnot. So yeah, trying to incorporate things like that and branch out in the ecosystem, I think, is going to be a big factor for once
Oh yeah,
V2 is going.
yeah, I mean, because when you also think about like you are creating the opportunity for like in some ways like a cottage industry, right? Like there's already so many people that run like fantasy games and leagues and all that sort of stuff, but what we're doing by incorporating like the DeFi component in the reward pool, what you can do is then like let's say you have like 12 friends and you're always in a fantasy, playing fantasy together, and each pay however much money to participate, but then that money is just what you split to the winners. But what you can do is then, if those funds that are paid to join that league, um, those are following the model, like the reward strategy and the yield generating model that we had. Then they're even if it's not that much, it's still generating interest, and then the person who's hosting and commissioning and running that league could take that yield, right, and that could go to them, and then the entry fees are paid out to everyone else, right, and so you're not changing, nobody's getting anything less for winning, but now you're actually getting compensated for your time, and it's done in a more sustainable way. So like that opens up an interesting opportunity, because that could, if you can, that works at a scale of, one division of 12 people, that could work with, a much larger mega league structure. And, when people are actually making money from running and hosting fantasy leagues on LeagueDAO.
Yeah, exciting stuff for sure. If we could dive into some more on the player farming, I think that we had some questions regarding um, would it be only the top 200 to 250 Genesis players would have the most value, or I'm not exactly sure the specifications on that.
So, I mean, I can go ahead and answer this a little bit, but I don't know about the top 250, but certainly you're going to have, there's about 11, there's 22 starters per team. Only 5, and subtract that by 5, so only 17 of those are generating points. So you've got 17 times 32. you'd have 544 generally generating stats, and then there's also depth players that are generating stats. So realistically, you're looking at about 700 of the original Genesis players actually having value, some not having value, depending on how they perform. If that answers that question, just because it depends on how much value you're generating in terms of stats. Some players start off like shit and are like just bad players, only on practice squad, and then they have a resurgent year and they come up and do a surprise, and then they are big stat generators, and some are not. So there's ways to speculate on this that help you overall, but
I mean, there's also just going to be players that retire, and
Yep.
that are there are Genesis tokens of them that are just not going to be in the league. I mean, I think the average NFL career is still only like 2 or 3 years. I mean, that's where we'll. Why we're also incorporating the public sale, the new like rookies, and we're actually gonna hold that off until rosters are set, so that way we ensure that new players that are coming in are players that are actually focused, like actually will get playing time, as opposed to just like, oh, here's all of the players that were drafted, because we know a lot of them won't actually make rosters and won't actually play.
I just wanted to go ahead and clarify for Sir Link. So it's not exactly the same as last year, because now you have to hold, if you're in the Mega League, you have to hold X number of players. And when you go ahead and take out a player, you're going ahead and you're basically like borrowing a fraction of that from the roster. And then you're going ahead and getting that player who is being borrowed is getting rewards off of that. So it's not exactly the same as last year. There is a bit more of a strategic component added to it that goes ahead and rewards players based upon need and what's available at a certain point in time.
Yeah, and that's why when you actually look at it, like how we propose the rosters, right? It's different from what most fantasy leagues have, where we're incorporating individual defensive players into the rosters, and that's for that reason, because we included defensive players in the larger, like the Genesis drop. We're adding that to this, so that way they still have a role in the mega league structure.
Did that answer your question, Sir Link? If you want to come up, we can go ahead and talk.
I think you just requested. I can invite, or it should. There we go.
Hey guys, can you hear me?
Yep.
Yep.
So, maybe I just need to read the forum post again. But like, the two guys that I mentioned, that like actually I can't remember who they are because they're so obscure. But so, and maybe they're not good examples. But say I have like a second stringer who I'm trying to think, like maybe like a Shardarius Ward on the Chiefs. I'm trying to think how he would play into that, like, and like I said, maybe I'm just not understanding concept still.
I mean, so Shadarius Ward, he's a cornerback, right?
Yeah, but he's not a starter, so he's probably like, if I recall, it was.
Does he generate stats though?
Yeah, he certainly does. I mean, he's not bad. He just wouldn't be picked. He wouldn't be picked up by, and maybe this is the problem. Like, I'm thinking that they have to be like drafted into a team and generating points to like accrue value back to me.
They just need to be drafted by a team to be accruing value in the current scheme, but there's like a multiplier effect with the amount of points that they generate. At least how it's
Oh.
currently protected.
But even still, I think that doesn't necessarily change the point that you're making, that it's like it isn't the same structure as last season, and that all the players don't get some piece of the like yield, even if like it requires people actually drafting them for them to actually like generate value back to the holder.
Okay. Yep. So I mean, like basically, there's if I recall, it's like 19 players on the team. And I think they can play like two. Is it two or three defensive players?
Yeah, it's 3 defensive players, let's say.
So basically that means that for each division, you're only going to have maybe like 36 defensive players out of the whole Genesis League. They're going to be like accruing points back. Does that kind of make sense?
Yeah, that
Yeah.
makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, and that's something that like I think that's something that we can keep thinking about in terms of like the um like keep these sort of brainstorming in terms of how like the Genesis player tokens and how that fits in, because it's like if you already hold a Genesis player, it makes sense to keep them because they could all of a sudden see a big jump in stats. But I understand the point that you're making, that like it's still it this model does limit the pool of players that potentially actually like will earn rewards for the holders.
No, that's super helpful. I was kind of reading through that. I was like, yeah, unfortunately, no. I mean, there's not. I mean, not too many players who are going to have a top 36 defensive player, and that's kind of how I was coming to like the 2 to 300 even offensive players using like the like 19 times 12 ish.
Mhm.
That's kind of the cap of who could even possibly like reasonably be drafted into a division, right? But yeah, I'll have to think about it, see if there's.
Yeah,
I think
it's also where it then gets like the numbers. Um, I have I'm sure we can find some stats around it, like how, because I think of like even like last year, like playing fantasy football, how like in week 13, week 14, like all of a sudden there were players that I really had never would have thought of during the draft that realized like, oh, this is actually someone I should pick up and hold on to because they're getting more playing time, they're generating more points. So I'm not like basically like there's a broader factor of like free agents that we would also make sense for us to take into this, like how many players that aren't drafted get picked up during the course of the season, whether it's because of injuries or just because they get better playing time and all of a sudden they're become a better value. um, I'm not sure what that number is, but I'm sure we could find it.
yeah, I'm sure it's probably like exponentially, like at least 2 or 3 times greater once you kind of broaden that net. But then again, you also have to have people paying attention and drafting them into the division. But I mean, I'm not really
Well,
criticizing.
they'll be so those players will like, even if a player isn't like so basically like if a player isn't drafted, they're still like, so each better way to put it, like each division is going to have like one version to sort of these like iterations of the player for all players, like all the players that could potentially you could have in the league, right? So
Yeah, I misspoke. I
yeah,
meant like picked up like by free
yeah,
agency
yeah.
or whatever.
Gotcha.
But yeah, so and like I was saying, I'm not necessarily critical of the concept because I think it's great to have like a, a really significant value on the like absolute best players. It just pushes me to think maybe I need to pick up some people that are actually gonna be in that top 200 or so.
I mean, I will say, for like, this is for anyone listening to this, like you're on the call, like anyone listening to that, the take a look, like the if you go into OpenSea, or I mean I guess because it's on Polygon, we can't use Universe yet for it. But if you go into OpenSea and look up the LeagueDAO like account, right, and filter the NFTs there specifically to the ones like for football, the football players, like there are a lot of players that were sold back to the DAO as a part of like the player buybacks that I would argue are a good value pickup. And we're not like anyone who goes through that and makes a proposal, like the DAO supports it, right? Like we're not gonna necessarily like, you know, if you make a fair market proposal, like offer for those, then we'll sell it to you whatever, you know, base costs for those players. Like so there's a lot of good value there, and unfortunately there isn't like a good way on Polygon to like bulk list stuff. But I definitely recommend like taking a look, and like if you're as you're doing, especially as you're like doing research heading into the season and stuff, um, there's some opportunities and some value players that might be worth picking up, and like just getting from the DAO, from like the Treasury wallet. And like I said, it benefits the DAO to have these held by actual community members and not necessarily just held in the DAO Treasury.
Hey guys, I got to drop right now. I'll talk to you later. See ya.
Thanks.
Catch you later.
So there was a question regarding the like stats and like updating stats in real time. So we are building up a more robust front end like UI for the league that will have be pulling stats from sports data closer to real time. The actual like scoring and final scoring, you know, and player scoring and that sort of stuff, like that isn't real time because it's on chain. So there, you know, that we can't update real time because there's a cost to that, or a transaction cost to that. But we are building in more robust, like I said, we're building out a front end and a UI that looks and feels like fantasy sports that you're used to. And that includes like sports data because of like the nature of our license. We can also incorporate, you know, projected points and scoring for players and a news feed of like RSS feed of articles and news and stuff like that. So that's why when we say it's ambitious, it's because it's ambitious. But we want this. We're really aiming to build a more holistic like fantasy sports ecosystem, so that way, like if you want to pick up free agents, you don't have to then go and scour, you know, OpenSea, and you don't have to then, you know, I mean, even though we all do anyways, like dive into all these other sport like stats websites and stuff to find stats on your players and things like that. So we want to create something that is inclusive, so people are, you know, anyone participating can like feel like they're getting everything they need within the DAO application.
Yeah, I'm hyped for V2. It's going to be awesome.
Yeah, I mean, I've already started to see the first iterations of the actual UI like designs and
Oh,
flow,
dang.
and it looks great. It looks sick. I'm gonna be really happy with it. And I think again, the way that we approached it from a for non-fungible brackets, it's like I think it is also an opportunity for us to like significantly improve on just Web3 UI in general, because we're looking at things from like, okay, like this is what users expect, and then how do we then integrate the like Web3 components into that without dramatically changing the actual experience.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I think just iterating where we can and taking community feedback. Yeah, because there's a few different we could add like for NFB, just simple things like adding like the team logos or whatever next to the teams or whatever is available, and different stuff like that on the UI front. Yeah, talking about NFB though, if just for a reminder, if you haven't claimed your rewards and you did participate in the NFB NCAA tournament pool, every bracket has rewards claimable. Even if your bracket scored, a low amount of points, you could still claim. a small reward even, and I mean it's worth claiming just because I mean it's on Matic, so you don't have to pay much in fees. And in that case too, we should also I would just say we'll call that NFB name pool for autofill Jackson 5 being the winner. And I'm not sure if we have a specific prize in mind, Jake, but that can be TBD or whatnot. But if the person with that NFB name hears this, then you can open a ticket, or we can announce it later, whatever you think works.
Yeah, we'll make an announcement and they can create a ticket, and then we'll set them up.
Cool.
Yeah, and we've got some other. We're gonna be doing more giveaways. We can kind of start wrapping up this call. We'll be doing some more giveaways for the League Legends in Discord. So for League token holders, we've lined up a few different NFTs that we're going to be giving away. There is we've got a Seeker that we're going to give away. We have an ASM All Star. Yeah, a few others, and so these are, it's not life changing, but these are all stuff that we wanted, just nice perks for the League token holders and contributors. So just we'll be announcing more of those as we keep going forward, and we're going to keep doing those giveaways and try to make sure that it's actual meaningful, something meaningful that you're getting. And you can qualify with staked league. So if you stake your league, then you get you'll have V League in your token in your wallet. So voting league, and we've added those to the role. So either you have the league token address or the V League token, and either one you will be able to claim the League Legend role and gain access to the giveaway channel. All right. Well, unless anyone has any other pressing questions, I think we can wrap this one up. Appreciate the feedback and the questions, and thanks for jumping on, Sterling. Much appreciated. Yeah, we've got a lot we're doing. We'll keep giving updates. Like I said, we're working on getting the. Next steps we'll keep with the forum posts, and we'll move those to snapshot votes, and we'll also be working on the more of like a newsletter breakdown, especially now that we have a clear window and clear picture of where we need to be and when for football season, and have also clarity around our sprint structure and how we're iterating. We'll be able to share more technical information in terms of what we're building and the status and state of all of that.
We'll have the recording up soon and some AMA notes later today for anyone who missed this. And we'll catch you guys next Friday. Thanks for everyone attending.